Konnichiwa, Maruaweka. Hello. My name is Jim Larimore, and I'm the Dean of Students here at Swarthmore. And it gives me great pleasure to welcome you in the languages of my ancestors and relatives from Japan and from the Comanche tribe of Oklahoma. I should probably also say on behalf of the small band of Scots-Irish settlers who found their way to Texas many generations back in my family, howdy. You've now heard from President Bloom and Provost Hungerford, two people who were instrumental in persuading me that I had made the terrible set of career blunders earlier in my life. I've been here at Swarthmore now for 2.5 years. This is the start of my junior year at the college. And I'm trying to recover now from 23 years wandering out at Stanford and Dartmouth, where I thought I was in a place and working with colleagues who were devoted to undergraduate education and who really worked exceptionally well, and I think many people indeed do, to provide a great undergraduate experience in those other places. But in coming here 2.5 years ago and meeting Al and Connie for the first time and hearing them talk about what happens here, the formative and transformative experiences of being a Swarthmore undergraduate, I became absolutely convinced that there was a large hole in my own education about what higher education could be and what students themselves could do when supported by a talented faculty and basically occupying center stage for 4 precious years of their lives. I am completely sold on the experience of being here, and I trust that in the 4 years that your children will be here, that you'll become big fans of this institution as well. In looking out at you all today, I'm reminded of one of my favorite college stories, and this one is true. Some of the others are not, but this one is true. About a first-year president who had arrived on a campus that he had previously been unfamiliar with, and on his first official day at work, he was left with the task of finding his way from the president's house to the president's office unaided for the very first time. The campus was fairly large, and as happens in most of these institutions these days, there was a fair amount of construction underway. So there were fences where there hadn't been fences the week before, and there were detours and obstacles that he had not anticipated in looking at the map at the kitchen table that morning. But as he found his way across the campus, he found himself suddenly in a location that did not look at all familiar to him. And he found a great sense of relief in noticing that one of those familiar kind of signs or maps was within reach. And he went over to it. And he looked, and he found the familiar red dot and the letters that spelled the words, "You are here." And he breathed a sigh of relief. And then a smile of recognition came over his face when he realized that one of his new students had scrawled next to that, "Yes, but why?" The simplest of your tasks today, I think, is that you're here to drop off your sons and daughters and to help them launch their undergraduate careers. The harder parts I will leave for you to ponder. But for your students, their task today is to begin the process of being a college student, to go through some of the early tasks and challenges that might be out there for them in getting unpacked. I suspect that many of you all hauled boxes and suitcases today, so they had some help with that. But in learning and to trust themselves as they make and keep friends, as they explore their own interests, as they look for some opportunities that they might not have been able to imagine before coming to college to begin with. And I want you to know, and as Connie and Al have both said, I hope that you'll take some comfort in knowing that your daughters and your sons will not be in this by themselves, and they won't be in this simply with the good company of their peers, but they will be here also in the good company of the faculty and staff and others who are here because we want their college experience to be a remarkable one, and so they will have lots of advice and lots of support. A colleague of mine at a reception for parents, a small group of parents earlier today, made the remark that this is a place where it is very hard to fall through the cracks. So hard, in fact, that students have to work very hard in order to fail or to be isolated. And he said that there would be a big challenge for anyone who is willing to work harder to dive through a crack than we could work to try to keep them out of it. So if you have worries about your daughters or your sons, or if you sense in your conversations with them over the next few months or few years that maybe they need some advice, that they need someone to intervene or to put an arm around them and talk with them a bit about something that might be going on in their lives, I do hope that you'll pick up the phone or that you'll send us an email or otherwise reach out to let us know what it is that we might be able to do to provide them a little attention, a little support, a little guidance, or a little advice if that's warranted. The things that I guess I would like to share with you all today, one has to do just a little bit with the philosophy of how we approach our work here. We do recognize and regard students as whole people, so we pay attention not only to their intellectual development, we try to pay attention to how they're feeling, to whether they have established a sense of belonging and involvement on the campus that can serve as a safe harbor for them or as a springboard for them as they start to pursue their interests. We like to be close enough that we can support them as they need it or offer a friendly bit of advice as they start to manage the personal and social transitions that will shape their lives over the next few years. But in very, very specific terms, because I sometimes also get the question of what do deans do. In the dean's area, we basically worry and think about and plan for the out of the classroom and out of the lab, out of the studio parts of a student's educational experience. So we're responsible for advising in the registrar's office. Your students will be spending a lot of time with us talking about course selection and academic planning and meeting with their advisors over the next few days. We operate the Housing and Residential Life program and student activities. We offer a wide variety of programs and services in the health service and in the counseling center. We focus on leadership development and an approach to diversity that is really rooted in the idea that this should operate as one unified whole community. And there are a few other things that we do that you'll find out a bit over time about. The thing that I should also not forget to mention today is that I'm feeling a special bond with you all today in a way that I had really not anticipated. Next week, on Wednesday, my older son, Anthony, will go off to kindergarten. Suddenly, I'm feeling so much more empathetic. This is a place, as Connie has mentioned, where we do welcome communication with parents. We try to respect the privacy of your sons and daughters, but we also know that you know them very well. You've had them with you for 18 years or so. You'll have a better sense for some of the things that might be going on. There are, truthfully, and I suspect this might come up during our question and answer time, there are some things that may present a little bit of a challenge for us in trying to figure out how best to communicate with you while we're also in dialogue with your daughter or son. But we have lots of experience in trying to navigate those waters. I hope that you'll also take a great deal of comfort in knowing that we are going to be a constant nagging presence in the lives of your children, asking them whether they have called you and spoken with you about different things. And if there are any concerns or issues that do pop up, one of the very first things that we urge them to do is to pick up the phone or contact their families and to talk with them, and we'll coach them about how they can open up a dialogue if there's any discomfort on their part. But that is the kind of place that Swarthmore is. Finally, I think before I sit down, I do want to share with you one other bit of information that I picked up in considering the move that eventually led my family and I here to this wonderful college. I read in a classic old book by Everett Lee Hunt, a former faculty member here at Swarthmore, a quote from Courtney Smith, who was one of Al's predecessors in the president's office. Who once wrote, "It's not enough to develop intellect, for intellect by itself is essentially amoral, capable of evil as well as good. We must develop the character which makes intellect constructive and the personality which makes it effective." In reading those words and then in having the opportunity to speak with Al and hearing his description of an educational ideal for this place, which he has dubbed ethical intelligence, I can tell you that one of the things that we do worry about here is not only the completion of certain tasks or the exploration of different ideas and different possibilities, but the deep consideration of the meaning behind things. And in that way, I hope that you'll know that the experience that your daughters and sons begin today, formally as members of the Swarthmore community, really will be beyond comparison. I hope that you get to enjoy that experience as much as they will over the next 4 years, and I can just tell you that you will get more sleep than they will, and you will also have, I hope, a little bit less homework to do than they will. So, welcome.